Digibajitunda. All on day, the one that fits ya. Katikin Digibajitunda. All on day, the one that fits.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to the Nile Book Club. It's January 2022 and this month we are reading Afterlives. And my name is Katasi and Kalungi and I'm really excited to have two special guests with us today.
Yes, and I'm Kalungi Sibandake. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa. So yes, special guest. Let's do a little introduction because one of our guests, he's been missing for a bit. He's been busy. He was here first couple sessions, and then he went AWOL. So Mr. Chiveru, would you like to reintroduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Yusuf Chiveru. I am a junior doctor and been part of the Nile Book Club for a year now, but I've missed the last few sessions and I'm looking forward to this one.
Good. And then Leng, do you want to tell us how to pronounce your name and introduce a little bit about yourself as well?
Hey. Christ. Yeah.
Sorry, we missed that. We missed that. Could you say that again?
Okay. I said you've really been doing well pronouncing the name. I'm surprised.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm special. Yeah. Just give it to our viewers, just so the full name, so we can get a strong name. Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Lengdung Tungchama. Lengdung Tungchama.
And where are you based?
Am I a social entrepreneur? I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm in Nigeria. I live here, and this is actually based in the UK, and they send books over to Nigeria. Especially, I work with
Oh, the internet is a bit.
Library.
Are you using Wi-Fi or are you using because
I didn't hear that. It's like I'm having network issues.
Yeah, just a few network issues, and I'm wondering if it might be easier if you use your phone network instead of if there's any Wi-Fi that you're using.
Oh, I'm actually using the phone network, not the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. It's much better now. Okay, so we'll just get started so that we can utilize your opinions while we can. So, like Katasi mentioned, this month we read Afterlives by Abdulrazak Gurnah. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that wrong. Who was born in Zanzibar and actually ended up in England, I think in the 60s as an exile. And he's been living in England, in Kent actually, for the past decades. And he recently was awarded the Nobel, prize, the Nobel Prize for Literature, which is a lot of money. And he, and I'd never heard of him. I was actually really ashamed because I'd never heard of him. I don't know if anyone else here had heard of him, but I immediately went and thought, let me get one of his most, recent books and see Wagwan. And I was pleasantly surprised. Or actually, I was pleased with what I got. So Afterlives follows multiple characters. It starts with Khalifa, who's of mixed heritage, and kind of just filters through many different characters, from Ilyas, who's a young Zanzibaran who has ambitions to fight for the German army, and then we follow Hamza, who also chooses to fight for the German army and ends up under the protection of a German officer, but this kind of has detrimental effects on his mental health and his life. But the thing that kind of holds him together, is his love for Afia, who is a little sister to Ilyas, and who herself has a very complicated backstory and experiences. So we'll just get started, really. Like, what do people think? Let's start with you, Katasi. What were your thoughts on Afterlives?
I really enjoyed Afterlives. Can I say, where do I start? I love that it was based in East Africa, and that and that he's been given this prize whilst he's alive. I think it's really important to recognize creatives, before they die. And I've been to Zanzibar, and I've been to like Mombasa. So even though it's not named this imaginary community we're living in, it felt really warm, and the community that he portrays just seems really interesting and made me want to be a part of it. And I love the use of Swahili and German. Interestingly, I studied German at school. I didn't love it, but but in terms of the main thrust of the novel, it being centered on East African colonial Germany, colonial East Africa, I thought was a really powerful idea and really original, and something that's really quite rarely explored. And when we think about colonialism, it's often Anglo-Saxon empires, or not Anglo-Saxon, sorry, but like the British Empire, or Francophone East Africa. So I thought that was really interesting. And for me, just the main theme of the Askaris, and the fact that these people chose to be part of this mercenary army was really interesting for me, because in Uganda, we use this word so loosely, I think, like, oh, where's your Askari or Askari, just like this, this lay person who probably doesn't even know how to use that rifle they're holding, but just understanding the genesis of this and the history around it was really awakening for me. So I really enjoyed it. And I'll just stop there for a minute.
Now, I was just going to make a little correction in case someone watches and goes, Francophone East Africa. I think you meant Francophone West Africa.
Actually.
Or was there Francophone East Africa? Sorry, unless I'm wrong.
Okay. Oh, I mean, as in Congo's Francophone, Rwanda's Francophone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I for some reason, I imagine them as Belgians. I don't really.
But the language is French, no?
French, yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And also because the point of focus was East Africa. So, yeah. Sorry, it was my arrogance. Okay, and then Mr. Yusuf, what did you think?
So, I'd like to say that I haven't finished the book yet. I did an audio book, so I'm listening to the last hour of it. So I've gotten, I think I've had enough of it at this point. I really enjoyed reading it, actually. I think it's a very well written story. I like the storytelling aspect of it. It's very detailed. It builds a good sort of background to what was happening at the time. And what I really liked is how he phased the story. So he's got a main character to focus on for a certain amount of time throughout the book. Obviously, Hamza having the most significant story in my opinion. With regards to the themes, I think he does explore, colonialism. He explores, relationships, and then he explores lives after, lives after the colonialists sort of went back. What I enjoyed the most actually was how, despite the fact that, before I read the book, I was really looking, and I thought it was definitely going to be about a very strong colonial theme, but I really liked the way that he focused on the characters, the African characters and the religion and their way of doing things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, really, really good observations, and I want to echo a few of those, but I just want to start off by saying that I really enjoyed just how kind of detailed the world was. Like, it was so specific, and having read, other books where, say, someone is not from that world, and then reading a book written by someone who was, who is really familiar with that world and has that great detail and specificity. I could literally see and visualize these places and these characters. Like, even if they just turned up for a few pages or sentences, I still kind of like understood exactly where they were coming from. And I really wanted to like know more about their lives, because you meet certain characters in books and you go, okay, this character doesn't have enough meat on their bones, and it's just wallpaper. It's a caricature. It's a skeleton. There's nothing there. There's no depth. But all these characters were really, really detailed, and I just loved it about that. Like, it made me just think of Zanzibar and think of like just sympathize with all the characters, in particular Hamza. Like, he just he was just such a tragic hero, like the perfect kind of character to follow, and you were really engaged. It was really sad actually that Ilias never came back home. That really, I know, maybe I don't know what happened, but it was really sad, like what he went through, like, and I was dying to know what the heck happened, and for him to get caught up in, Germany and all the madness that happened with him, was really exciting to read, but unfortunate. So sorry, Lengdung, before you left, we were just like saying what we thought of the book. So I don't know if you want to use this as a chance to kind of let us know some of your thoughts about the book.
Yeah, I was hearing what you were saying. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So by the way, I read the book for like.
Oh, again, so he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's continue. When he joins us, So yeah, okay. Were there any I don't know if Katasi, if you had any questions you wanted to ask to get the ball rolling, or are we all in agreement that it's an excellent book?
Well, I just want to understand what Yusuf said earlier on. He said, I've had enough. Have you had enough? Are you going to finish it?
Oh no, as in
Enough
I think I've had enough to have I've had enough of the book to have a discussion about it. I am going to finish it. That's a good book.
Okay. I wanted to clarify if we're on the same page.
Yes, we're on the same page. Yeah, and Brother Kalungi has dropped a few, spoilers, but that's fine. I think I expected it.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hadn't. You know what? I didn't realize, because I was thinking about the people watching this and going, if they're watching this, they've either read it already or they're happy to be spoiled.
Yes,
sorry about that. But I think the story in itself is strong enough that you can still listen. Especially, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, when I was reading it, there was times I was like, oh, I wish he'd spaced out the words a bit more, because it was very essay formatted, like, those really dense essay nonfiction books. But I actually really enjoyed it. I liked how he would just like jump from one story to the next in just like a small paragraph. Like, you just be talking about Hamza, then he jumps to Khalifa without having to go to the next chapter. And that was really good. Like, I actually, reading other books where the chapters are really short, it makes me yearn for like Gurnah's writing, because it's like he would literally have you for like 20 pages on just one chapter, and you get engrossed in that, like engrossed in the characters, and then he lets go and you're on to another. So Lengdung, if your internet goes bad again, we're happy for you to just have the audio, because maybe it's the mixture of the picture and the old, but you're seeming clear right now. So let's use it right now before it runs away from us.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. So I was saying that for like 3 to 4 days after I read the book, I was having dreams of war. I mean, that's literally how much the book got to me. It was that good. So to make a confession, I actually don't like reading fiction books. I hardly read them. Maybe in a year I'll read just 1 or 2. So, but this was the first one I read this year, which was very surprising. And I read it because of you, Kalungi. I mean, I was like,
it was a combination of me and Katasi, by the way. We come up with the choice of books, and when Abdulrazak Gurnah won the Nobel Prize, we kind of thought, oh, that would be a good person to check out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well done, guys.
Thank you.
So
okay.
It's like like you were saying, his ability to shift into stories, into characters. I mean, within a chapter. At first, it was puzzling, and I think that was what kept me. I was kind of, what's this guy up to? At some point, I began to think Hamza was Khalifa, and so I thought he was just going around until I got to the point where, oh no, these are actually two different people, and then further and further. But I don't think, for me, it wasn't particularly the narration that held me. It was the ordinariness of the story. He did not make this a big thing. He wanted to see the lives of ordinary people and how they played out. I mean, if you think about it, none of them became any great person or any big person or any of these big heroes. They were ordinary people, and that's the best way to see war and to see colonialism. And I've never been to East Africa, so I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about all these landscapes and all these places he was describing, but they were deeply informative. As I was reading, I had to go online to see some things. I mean, it was kind of a confusing part of history, and so he was intriguing to the point that I had to say, okay, let me check this online. So I'll go online and check, and gradually. But I finally liked how he ended the story. He said that, I think it was, I'm not good at remembering people's name in books. I think it was Hamza. Was it Hamza? Was it Khalifa? No, not Khalifa. Khalifa is the man who became the godfather of Afia. So I don't know. The guy who went to Germany after the war and had a child, and
Ilyas.
He said that Ilyas. He said that his life ended in one of the camp. And he ended the book by saying that what they knew is that Ilyas was loved enough by another human being that the human being followed him to the camp. But what I found, what I picked was that, in fact, he was loved enough that is he cousin now? Or is it, I don't know how to describe that. I mean, the son of his sister, what would that be?
Or the son of his nephew.
His nephew.
Mm.
He was so loved that his nephew had to travel to Germany just to find him. I mean, that's the demonstration of humanity at a level that is extraordinary.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing I liked so much about it, how he got to that point. Of course, if I meet Abdulrazak Gurnah, one of the questions I would like to ask him is, why would he like to put an African character who has experienced so much about colonialism? Why would he go and join the Nazis? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if that bothered you. It bothered me. I mean, why would this guy do this kind of thing?
Yeah. Did that bother anyone, like what Ilyas was doing?
But you see, the interesting thing is that this is based on history as it actually unfolded. And I think Ilyas's ending was based on a real Tanzanian character who actually went to fight for the recolonization.
Really?
Yeah, the recolonization agenda. So it wasn't like make-believe. I think his name was Bayume or something. And like you, this book got me to do lots of like supplementary research. There's so much I want to explore from this. I would also, for me, the ending was perplexing because we spent so much time wondering where Ilyas was and if he'd ever come back, only for his ending to be summarized in half a page. Like I really wanted more.
I definitely agree with you. That was my problem too. Okay, at the point I thought that he would never be found, like you're saying. I thought, okay, I think since we've gotten to this point, this guy will never be found. He's gone. And then he's found, and the whole story is shut. And I just couldn't figure what was this about. Why will he make him that way? Why will he? Well, it's not that you're saying it's a historical something that actually happened. It's so weird to me, very weird.
But just, I think for me, maybe the ending of the way that Ilyas does sort of just vanish or whatever speaks to the fact that many of these mercenaries or these volunteer soldiers, their stories never had endings. You know, they were never sort of given the respect or recognized in the way that Germans were, and maybe it speaks to that to that. You know, just as the German colonial administrators didn't recognize the efforts, Gurnah was perhaps trying to replicate that in his storytelling. Don't know what you think about that.
What do you think about that, Yusuf?
No, I definitely agree. I think a lot of people in war generally their stories don't necessarily have an ending, particularly for the Askaris and for Ilyas, for Hamza, it was more of a better ending, I guess, and that was due to the kindness of his, I think it was the lieutenant. I'm not sure the German name for it, but I think for many people they do not really have an ending. And I haven't read the end yet, but I wouldn't be disappointed with a short ending for Ilyas, because actually, from in my opinion, yes, he was a very significant character, but actually he was sidelined very quickly when Hamza came along. And so I'm more interested in Hamza's ending than Ilyas's at this point.
Yeah, but I also think as well, because Ilyas's kind of disappearance was one of like the overriding narratives throughout the story, especially when Hamza comes back and falls in love with Afia. I think for the reader, at least for me, I wanted that to be resolved. So once it's resolved, for me, it feels like it's the end of the story, because Hamza's ended up with Afia, they have a child, Khalifa, spoiler alert, has died. So has Khalifa's wife as well. So it's like all the characters have kind of their lives have been almost resolved. And that one missing thing that was always in the back of Afia's mind as well is like, whatever happened to the benevolent brother who came to save her? Whatever happened? And she gives birth to someone, a son, gives him the same name as her brother, you know, to her obviously detriment to a certain degree. But once that's resolved, what happened to Big Ilyas, you kind of go, okay, cool, that's the end of the story in that kind of its iteration. But I wanted to ask, actually, because we're all like, us three are from Uganda and we have a slight, I guess, proximity to Zanzibar, Tanzania, East Africa. Lengdung, you alluded to, you know, the fact that you were unfamiliar with, you know, the landscape of the setting of the North. Was there anything else that you felt like, especially maybe the Swahili phrases and stuff? Were there certain? How did it feel as being a Nigerian reader? Was it any different?
I didn't know any of those, man. I just jumped through.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, and the truth is, well, I say, I'm ashamed that I did not read so much literature about how colonialism specifically happened in a lot of these countries in East Africa. So I didn't have an idea of all these wars he was writing about. I didn't have an idea of how they were manifesting themselves. And so it was at the region of this book that I began to check, and then I began to see how all of this really happened in real time. I mean, in fact, when you tell people around here in West Africa that Germany colonized a part of Africa, it may not be, well, I say it won't be familiar. It won't be familiar. What we're familiar with is the British. And then another thing is the way the religion plays out. Basically, I think if you see through, you see that it's a Muslim book. When I say Muslim book, sorry, Islam is a religion in it. I was raised Christian, so some of those were unfamiliar to me. Yeah, but I found it intriguing. And then the customs. Look at when I've forgotten her name, when she was dying, they had to bring some people who did some festivals for her for some days. I found that fascinating. And Khalifa was just nagging through it. He didn't believe in all those things, so he just had to sit through and let her have her way. So those were really things that struck me. There's a passage that I took off. Maybe I should just read it out. It's
yeah, of course.
It's a conversation between Afia and I think this should be Hamza. So Afia was in his arms when he said, "Will it suit you if we marry?" She pulled back, looked at his face, perhaps to make sure he was not joking. When she saw how somber his expression was, she smiled and held him tighter and then said, "Eid Mubarak, it will suit me very well. I have nothing," he said. "Nor do I," she said. "We will have nothing together." That was so funny.
Yeah.
But it's practically the way the Muslims here live. Yeah, I remember a conversation I had with a man who has five wives, and he's just selling things in town, and the total items he had that he was selling was not up to $3, but he has 5 wives and several children, and he just said that he keeps going, God takes care of them. So I was like, this is what these guys are up to here. We have nothing together. It was romantic, and yeah, I had to take that note down.
Yeah, they really suited each other, Afia and Hamza. Like they had, I mean, Hamza had the mysterious kind of background and everything, and Afia's background was really transparent. Yusuf, for you as someone who is Muslim, did you read the book with a different lens?
I wouldn't say I read it with a different lens, but I really appreciated the way he sort of normalized the daily activities of the Muslim community, but also recognized that there were certain people in the community, i.e. Khalifa, who didn't really believe but played along. And I think this goes back to previous arguments that we've had about religion and culture, and how religion in this community was weaved into their culture, in that certain practices were just, you just had to do it regardless of whether you believed in it or not. And I do agree with regards to Khalifa and with regards to Hamza and Afia's relationship. It was very innocent, it was very pure, and I think their stories are very similar, and I think the scars represented that very well. And I think that's what, using, not to use the cliche term of breaking down the walls, and I think them both having scars, like physical scars, was sort of how they opened up to each other. Just putting this into the context of religion, perhaps not allowed, but also the fact that they're sort of made a promise to each other before engaging in an intimate relationship was, I think that was very endearing, and I'm glad. I haven't got to the part where they do sort of get married, but I'm glad that they do get married and have a child together. I think the other thing that I wanted to sort of raise is you mentioned that there was, that he painted the daily lives as very normal lives and very normal people, which I do agree with to a certain extent, but I think even beyond that, he sort of the author made very normal activities seem extraordinary. I think he highlighted the resilience that that the people had, the strength and the perseverance that, to go through different phases of the war and still remain standing at the end of it. And I think that was something to applaud.
Yeah. I agree. I really agree. Katasi, was there anything that stood out for you, or something that maybe you didn't really like as much?
Well, I wanted to talk about the women in the book,
Oh.
because I thought they were, how were they? They were challenging. I mean, I really liked Afia, her story, the trauma that she encountered with under her guardian. That was really moving, that whole scene, and her leaving was wonderful to see. But I felt like there was a general theme of like complicity in the novel, whether it be on ethnicity and or gender. So the woman that, whatever her name was, Mama, that was looking after her at this place where she was basically made to be like a servant or a slave, she was complicit in her abuse because she reported her to the man of the house that she was writing, which ended up in her being like beaten. Biaisha, is it Biaisha? Biaisha, Khalifa's wife, yeah. She was also complicit in her suffering because as much as she wanted her to move on and sort of leave their house, that's because she was insecure and she was going to try and marry her off to some old man who had all these other wives. So that was really perplexing. And then when you think about the fact that Visa Skari, like the fact that Hamza, he volunteered, he didn't have to be there. There were so many opportunities. Like he was such a frustrating character for me. Like there were so many opportunities for him to leave the war sooner. When the Askaris said to him, like, all right, now we're off to our own death. He could have gone with them. When they were deflecting at night, he saw them leaving. But he decided to be complicit in this colonial endeavor. So I just thought it was an interesting theme throughout the book.
But couldn't you say that, at least on the issue of like the complicity of the women, couldn't you say that they were kind of caught up or stuck between a rock and a hard place because, she had her loyalty, the mama who was looking after Afia when she was younger, her loyalty was to her husband. And if she hadn't reported, say, Afia to the husband for, say, reading or whatever stuff that she was said to have been doing, she might have kind of received the brunt end of the punishment. And then similarly for Hamza, if he defects and he goes with the other Askari, what are his other options? Okay, granted, he stays with this officer who's kind of semi-abusing him, but he sees that as a better alternative than going back to a life that he actually wasn't as favorable as the life he could potentially be going if he sticks with this officer. Like, so both kind of parties, both camps are caught up between, like, I do this, okay, this might be the right thing to do, but actually it leads to an unfavorable situation. So are they in the wrong for that? Or is it just surviving?
So just on the mama part, it wasn't just her reporting her to the man of the house. It was also the fact that she created this narrative of fear, instilling fear in this young girl around stories about horrible things that would happen to a young woman if she went out. There was nothing empowering. She didn't have to tell her those stories. Like Afia's worldview was one of like fear, essentially, and to be afraid of men and whatnot. So I felt like she didn't have to play that role. And in terms of Hamza, I see what you're saying. Like, I think Gurnah does a really good job of this. Like, it was a complex decision to go and be part of these armies. It elevated your status. He came out of it with skills. He could speak German. He could craft. He wouldn't have got any of those. Well, who knows what would have happened if he didn't go to the army.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean. It's not straightforward on his part, but I definitely think the women would something else.
Yeah, and I think that it's also maybe we should be conscious of the period that Gurnah was writing about, and I think for that specific time in history, it wouldn't be surprised that they made these decisions. It's like if you're going to write about a character today, if you don't put a smartphone in their hands or a laptop, you're unfair. So perhaps it's, and actually I think Aisha, she was actually enthusiastic about getting her married. I think that's part of what Khalifa represents in that book. Khalifa represents a progressive, a generation, a progressive man that was, look at how he welcomed Hamza, I think. First he was suspicious, but then he welcomed him, allowed him to stay in his house. He was disregarding to all his wife's beliefs and all those things. He was open to the idea of Hamza staying there. He was open. He was even the one who talked to Hamza first about whether he loved Afia or not. And then he was the one who went and pulled Afia out from that house when she was bullied. So I think Khalifa represents the progressive ideals that that today we celebrate. And it's unfortunate that I think Khalifa was not, I would say he was a sad man, or he wasn't, Gurnah didn't make him a very big man, which I didn't like. I wish he was more bigger than that.
Yeah, I just want to kind of make this final point, and I think we'll wrap up. But I think Khalifa was content with what he had. He was one. He reminded me actually of there's a character in this book, Chintu by Jennifer Nantuga Makumbi, which is one of the writers that we've also read one of our books, The First Woman. But there's a character in there called Misi Raim, and he's one of those kind of like, you know, a bit laissez-faire, like, listen, just don't make a fuss kind of person, just, you know, let life be, let things be. But it sometimes it comes from experience, like them having seen. But he was really funny. He's a funny guy, how easily frustrated he got about little small things. But I just wanted to kind of like, because we don't want to make the sessions as long as we used to, but I wanted to kind of maybe give you guys one last final like summary of a moment that really stuck with you. Let's start with you, Katasi.
A moment that stuck with me. It's not really just a moment, but it's just the relationship with the German officer and Hamza, and how their relationship pretty much summarized what the book was about, like the oppression of your colonizer coming to civilize you, but sort of denigrating you at the same time. And I like that Gurnah didn't over-explain it. It was just left for us to interpret.
Yeah. Okay. And Yusuf?
So for me, I think the moment that stood with me is when Hamza came back to that coastal town, and I think he was speaking to, I forget his name, the merchant, and they hired him because they liked the look of him, right?
Yeah.
And this is I think the third time or the fourth time I'd heard this. You know, I like the look of you. I like the look of you, and that sort of just made me think, you know, just drawing similarities to modern day life and how easily people who look a certain way would get jobs. And then that took me back to the book that the German lieutenant kept recommending to Hamza to read, Schiller. Is it Schiller? I don't know if I'm right. Schiller, yeah. So I found I didn't know about him, but he's apparently this author who wrote a lot about aesthetics and, you know, how things look and the beauty of the soul and how that's reflected on the outside. And you know, it's such a unique moment, but for me it represents a lot about how, you know, how aesthetics, how looks can get you very far in life, even in times of hardship such as war. And so yeah, I'm guessing Hamza must have been a very handsome guy.
Yeah. And Lengdung?
Okay. I noticed how the ability to read and write made a difference. I mean, Khalifa was able to get the job he had because he was able to read and write. Afia was able to escape from her neighbor because she was able to read and write. And that was actually what her aunt or her neighbor was punishing her for. And Hamza too was able to read and write, and that made a big difference for him. And then Another person again that it made a big difference for was the I think it Elias II. Yeah, ultimately it was his ability to read and write that was able to help him go to Germany and was able to locate his uncle. And I like this popular story of Frederick Douglass that one point his master's wife was trying to teach him, and then she was trying to teach him to read and write. And then the master found her, and then he told her to stop teaching him. And then he told her that a man who is educated will not be fit to be a slave. And that's ultimately what happened.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in life.
Absolutely. And then quickly for me, I think just Hamza as a character, like, I think you could write another book about Hamza and, the kind of jealousy he brought out of the other officer that ended up slicing him. And just that kind of like really the fact that he was so unperturbed by so many things and so resilient, and his mystery as well, like the enigma he had. And yeah, I just thought he was a really good character, and just that coming together of Afia and Hamza was really, really good. So okay, thank you so much guys for joining us. So hopefully we'll see you again next month. It is a short month, so we have to pick a book very quickly for us to read. So we'll let you know as soon as possible. And we appreciate you guys being here, seriously, because it just really encourages more people to join when they start seeing new faces. So we really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Hey guys.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All on day, the one that fits ya. Katigen Digibajitunda. All on day, the one that fits ya. Katigen Digibajitunda. All on day, the one